and in that space, I was not me, the little girl anymore. I could expand and bring my awareness back. And I realized when I brought my awareness back to me as Sharon, that anything that was out of balance within me, the void would bring something to balance it out. There could not be anything out of balance within the void.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and seafood, Taoist Master San Qing, and it's another day in paradise. As always, it's good to be me because I'm in the presence of this incredible being. I want to welcome to the podcast Sharon Sananda Kumara, a psychic medium, and also she does a little bit of hypnosis on the side once in a while, but I would stay with the source of all things, which is the being that she is, and the incredible juice that I'm getting high as a kite on right now. Welcome to the podcast, my dear friend.
Oh, thank you, son. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. So why don't we start with just giving the audience a little abbreviated summation of your journey and how you got to this moment.
Okay, sure. Well, it basically started. Okay, I was raised Catholic in my life as a kid. My parents divorced when I was young. We kind of moved around a lot. My parents were not good Catholics. My grandmother, who we lived with it for a while, was, and very fundamentalist. So, we had to go to church 6 days a week. Saturday was our day off when we lived with my grandmother. And so that just it rubbed me wrong. So I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. No, there's got to be something more. So I didn't have a spiritual center. Okay. And I was really close to my stepdad. We ended up living with my mother and my stepdad. And when he passed in 1998, it shook me to my core because I needed to know what happens when we die. I couldn't accept the fact that he just goes to heaven or hell or whatever. I didn't have any center with that, any information that made sense to me. And I was a partier. I lived in San Antonio, Texas at the time. We lived around the South most of my life. And so, I kept a job down, but I wasn't taking life seriously. I just figured, okay, working and partying was basically all you do. That's actually the law in Texas, is you have to drink beer and go country dancing. So that's what we did. And when my stepfather died, I'm like, okay, I need to know what the truth about what happens when we die. And I started reading books. I'm a big reader. I started reading books on mediumship. I will say I was a psychic kid. I forgot to say that. I saw dead people, but I didn't. It scared me, and I couldn't talk to my parents or anybody about it, especially my grandmother. So I pushed it down. So I started reading books on mediumship, and I'm like, this is what makes sense. That like George Anderson, the classics, James von Prague, John Edward at the time. That they were really big, and it made sense to me, and it really resonated. I'm like, okay. I mean, it was just an emotional reaction to it. This is real, that we still exist. I knew that he was. I needed to know that he was viable and not just disappeared in some realm that we couldn't contact him, or he didn't have a life. So as I was reading these books, I started having spontaneous sleep paralysis episodes where, you know what sleep paralysis is, right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the gateway. I kind of like when people come to me for that type of stuff, there's that method behind it.
Yeah. And this was in 98. And like I said, I didn't have any spiritual background. I started doing a little bit of research on spirit, the other side, afterlife and stuff like that. But when I was having sleep paralysis episodes, I didn't know what they were. It scared me. I thought I was dying. I was terrified during these experiences. And I came across an article online about the afterlife, and that they mentioned out-of-body experiences. And I'm like, okay, what is that? And so I read further, And they said that if you learn how to leave your body, that like you said, that the sleep paralysis, they called it sleep paralysis, I didn't know what it was, is a gateway to leaving your physical senses. They call it leaving your body, where you could explore the afterlife, and you can be in contact with your loved ones. I'm like, perfect. This is perfect. I can find my dad and know for myself. I have to be shown things. Know that he still lives on the other side. And so I started buying books on the out-of-body experience and studied all the classics then. William Buhlman, Robert Peterson, Robert Monroe, lucid dreaming, Stephen LaBarge, and got the headgear that, triggers you for a lucid dream and things like that. And I was able to induce a conscious out-of-body experience in about 6 weeks. And I've been hooked ever since. And I did find my dad. But something even more profound happened in 2001. And I had already been having out-of-body experiences and exploring the afterlife. And then when I found my dad, it was like, oh gosh, this is, the universe is my oyster. I was going to other planets. I still do go to other planets and things like that. And being in contact with angels. My dad sent angels to me in one of my earlier experiences. So there was just so much that I could do, or realizing, wow, this is amazing. This is something we all need to remember how to do, because we're all doing it anyway, as you know. It's just a matter of being conscious as we leave our physical senses. And so 2001, I am, this is in New Braunfels, Texas. I go inner tubing down the river with some girlfriends and have a really good day, end up at the end of the day on the shuttle bus. Okay, we're on the shuttle bus. We're all packed in like sardines on the shuttle bus. It's pulling a trailer that has our equipment. And as he's driving down the road and he's shifting through manual gears, I'm up against the back door standing, and I fall out of the back door. I hit it and it opens, and I fall under the trailer, and the trailer ends up running over my head, and my neck and my head. And so I'm like, first of all, I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm falling out of this trailer. Everything's slowed down as I'm falling. I can't believe I'm falling out of this trailer. And then when I hit the pavement, I bounced twice, and then I'm rolled over onto my side. I think, stop, you're killing me, because I knew right away that if I get run over, that's it. And that's what happened. The back wheel went over ran over my head. I popped out of my body, and I'm looking down, and I see my body, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I hope that commuter bus doesn't run over my body, because that'll make a big mess. And I had no attachment to my body, because I had already been having out-of-body experiences. So I knew that this is just a vehicle we use. I had that epiphany in the very beginning when I was leaving my body. I'm jumping around here a little bit, but when I was leaving my body, something told me to look around and look at my body on the bed. And I did. And I saw this body with covers up to here and blonde hair. I didn't know who that was. I'm like, who is that in my bed? Who is that? I had no idea who that was. And then I realized, oh, wait, that's my body. And I had no attraction or no attachment to it. I felt that my body looked like a bag of bones. That was the thought that came in my head. That's just a bag of bones. And I knew that this consciousness right here was me. That was a huge epiphany for me in my beginning travels. That was huge. This is me, not that body. So I already had that awareness. And I knew that we die many times in many life experiences. That this is just another one. As I'm looking down at my body in the road, and I also started thinking about my friends, and thought, this is really going to ruin their day. We had such a good day, and here I go and die on them. I'm thinking that, and it's my friend's birthday. She's not gonna have a good birthday after this. Those are all the thoughts I'm thinking. And I thought about, my partner at the time. He'll get over it. My sister at the time, oh, she'll have family. She'll get over it, but she'll be very hurt, because we were very close. But she'll have their support. And then I thought about my mom, who I was taking care of. And when I thought about my mom, I felt a presence behind me. I turned around and there was my stepdad. And I was really happy to see him. And he tells me it's not my time. And so I argued with him and said, but I want to stay with you. He said, no, it's not your time. And then a tunnel starts to open up on my right. And I see my ancestors in, I call it the ancestor tunnel. I see them in the tunnel. And I'm thinking they don't look happy to see me. So something's going on, right? And then I see another tunnel behind that one, past that one, which is huge. And it looks like the sun, golden white sun. And I'm gazing at that. I was actually being drawn to the ancestor tunnel. But when I'm gazing at that one, I wasn't thinking about that. And I saw that tunnel. And I saw a figure come out of the tunnel, or the portal. And he was wearing a white robe and had hair, long hair. And I recognized him right away, being raised Catholic, as Christ. Now, again, I'm not religious. I was not religious in any time in my life. I knew that what we've been told about him probably wasn't, didn't jive with what I felt might have been true about him walking the planet as a man, right? But I flew to him. I missed him. I knew that I needed to be with him, and he embraced me. And I felt so much love and so much forgiveness. Basically, anything that I could have been worried about, or that I was hurt about, or any pain was gone with him, with his love. He said to me also, "It's not your time," and I told him I wanted to stay with him. And he said, you still have, he's communicating with me, your job's not done. You still have things to do. Because I was starting to get a spiritual center, or starting to understand spirituality, that type of thing, not religion, but spirit, what we're made up, our true selves. My out-of-body experiences were helping me with that, to understand our multidimensional self and our nature. And at that point, I look at his eyes and I see the most beautiful blue, bright blue eyes. And I realize I'm looking at the universe. I could see the universe through his eyes. And I'm reflecting this from my eyes. We're reflecting this immense light to and from, from each other. It's a mirror. And then I feel his heart center, and I'm merging with his heart center. That's the reflection there. We're just merging. I'm merging into light with him. He's surrounding me and filling me up with whatever you want to call source light, love, everything there that we are, right? He's helping me. He's reminding me what we are as I'm merging with him. And I'm in that space for I don't know how long. It's pure bliss. Can't describe it in our words, but pure bliss. And time is lost. I'm not me anymore. It's just pure bliss. Then I hear my name, and he calls me, and he asks me and I'm back to Sharon. He asked me if I want to go on a journey, which I say yes. He puts out his hand. I take his hand, and I can feel every line, every crevice in his hand. It's just so intense. And I realize that our senses here are so much more muted than our senses in the higher planes. And I find that out more and more with my out-of-body experiences as well, or with my travel, that our senses are muted because of our dense realm here, dense bodies, dense realm, denser, I should say. And so he takes my hand, we fly through the cosmos, and he takes me to a planet that I recognize as a home planet for me. And it's a water planet. We're floating above this beautiful blue, turquoise blue ball, this planet. And while I'm floating above this turquoise ball of beauty, I become connected with the mother matrix of the planet, just like Mother Earth here, Gaia. I become connected with her on this water planet, and I am her. I become her. my body is her. I am, and I feel so much love and so much gratitude for every single being on my body, from a single cell, organism to anything bigger, whales or whatever. Yeah, that type of the larger consciousness. And it's so incredible, the love that I felt for these beings. And then I felt the love from them as well for me, because this was in a higher dimension. And I felt so much love from the beings on the planet for me that was sustaining the life of my body. And I'm merging with that consciousness, that matrix, and my matrix is in tune personally with that planet. And that's where I realized afterwards, that's why we feel maybe this earth isn't home, because we have another matrix or another home planet that we're used to within us. And that, so anyway, after that, he calls me back again, and we drive down into the planet and under the water, under the sea. And I'm reunited. I become a water being, and I'm reunited with my family. I have a mate and children, and also parents and a community. And I'm traversing through the sea with my family and bringing all that experience back into my awareness, tuning into the matrix of who I am there. And then I hear my name. Then I'm being called back again, and it's Joshua. And he asked me if I'm ready to come back, and I say no. I say, all right, on one condition, that I know that you are with me and walking with me and help me in my life from now on, because I don't want to stray anymore. I don't want to feel lost anymore. And, I was drinking and partying and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to feel lost anymore. I need you with me. I need you every moment, that I know that you're there and that you have me. You have my back, and you are going and you support me. And he said, deal. And then I'm back on the planet in my body. And I jump up and run to the side of the road. And I go to the hospital. They release me after 5 hours. So that's kind of a condensed version of that experience. It was a huge, huge catalyst for me after my stepdad passed, and I started having out of body experiences where he was in my travels, and I was also going to the water world, because all the memories, I didn't have the memory of it right away, because my body was so banged up, even though it was healed from his light and from I think the water planet was like a baptism for me, and the light that I was merging with, I feel also healed my body. But all these memories started coming to me in increments, and he helped me heal lifetimes of trauma, past lives of trauma, going back to the galactic wars. I had memories of Atlantis. I had memories of the extraterrestrials, the baddies, I guess you can call them, the what we call the Draco reptilian. Memories of being in wars with them. I was in these wars as a Palladian soldier. I remembered all this stuff, and it was it wasn't something I expected. So as I sit with him in meditation, I'm seeing all that he's helping me heal lifetimes and lifetimes of trauma that I hadn't healed before, that I came here to heal, unhealed traumas in a metaphysical way. I mean, this is Christ working with me, helping me heal on a metaphysical way. And like, this is, not the religious person that I was, led to believe in my religious schooling. Well, I went to Sunday school, but I didn't pay attention. But so it was very, very different. And he's just love, basically. So that's how my journey kind of started. And if you have any questions or anything, I'll go ahead, because there's lots more.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's amazing. It's always amazing to be able to get insight, but it's a visceral thing. So right now, the visceral thing is, me experiencing as an experiencer, the experiential moment, the visceral, somatic, kinesthetic response that we're having as we oscillate back and forth with this combination, and all that visceral density of frequency from the heart center, and your aura is oscillating with vibrant white light. But it's quite interesting. You have this, like, it looks like a flower of life in the center of your chest, and then you're emanating all this blue light, and there's dolphins and doves and all this weird stuff going through your aura, which I think is really amazing. It's super cool, and it absolutely makes way more sense to me as you're explaining it in the story. But I love witnessing this stuff, and sometimes if I want to, I become the Sherlock to your Watson. But other than that, you can experience it, observe it, and move right along. And sometimes you want to go deeper. It just really depends. But I'm getting high as a kite.
Okay. Okay, well, good. Yeah. Well, you're not the first person who's told me that they see dolphins in my aura. And I actually had dolphins in my dream this morning, just this morning. Yeah, you're not the first person. Well, I do have dolphins that I commune with on a regular basis. And when I was traveling to the water world in my out-of-body experiences, in my astral travels, where I just call them reality shifts now, because that's what happens. All of a sudden, I'm just there. And I'm like, and it's even more real than here. I'm just there. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, all right, I'm underwater. Right? Yeah, I'm underwater. So I got to remember that I can breathe underwater, because I used to panic at first. But, and then I taught myself to remember that I can breathe underwater. And I'm with dolphins, and I'm with my mer family. And there's one memory in particular that was just so profound, where I just reality shift, right? And I'm underwater, and there's a dolphin in front of me, and he's nodding his head, telling me, and I got the intuit telling me to look down. And I look down, and I'm nursing this little tiny mer baby, this beautiful little tiny mer baby. Oh my, and I got chills talking about it. It was the most beautiful thing. And I'm like, whoa, this is my baby. This is my mer baby. So yeah, these memories were coming back to me full force in my travels. And also I was traveling there a lot in my meditations too, but that one was just super profound. And then to be connected with my family there was almost pretty much too much for me to handle at times. So I don't go there a lot like I used to, because it's hard to come back. Not that I don't love this planet and I don't love my life. I do. But, there's a freedom about being in the ocean and in the water, and it's like flying. Flying is one of the first things I do in the out-of-body travel, my out-of-body travels too. But yeah, and Yeshua led me on another journey that to remember my childhood, because I did not remember my childhood when as an adult. Most of my childhood, I should say. And it turns out I started having these repressed memories of my childhood of trauma, violence, and that kind of thing. And so those memories were coming up. I had a feeling something was there, but I just couldn't, I just couldn't put my finger on it. And it was so when I started seeing it, I realized, oh, now I know why I was repressing it. I mean, I could smell the vomit, I could feel the pain, that kind of thing, as it would come up. And I made a commitment to be in my room every night at 9 p.m. with him and my guides, and work with them. And when I come in, I'm sure you know, and your audience knows. And when you commit, spirit commits with you, right? And so it's just like going to class. My room was a classroom. If you you commit to going to class every day, then your instructor is going to be there with you, just as even more focused than you. But then they realize that you are committed, and things happen like crazy. That's what I've learned. So I remember these experiences, and I remember I had another, or not another, but a first NDE when I was 9, and that one was not quite as profound, but it was profound. During that NDE, I left my body from the that was going on, the trauma, and I felt pain for just a half a second, and then I felt the most immense peace. It was different in 2001. I did feel peace, but it was not like when I was a kid, when I was 9. It was just so profound, and I was in a darkness. I wasn't in light, and I didn't share that with people for a long time, because I thought, why was I in darkness? That's so weird, because you hear about when I started seeing that people were talking about NDEs and things like that. I didn't know what it was, but I've heard people call it the void. I don't know if that's what it was, but it was darkness, and it wasn't like darkness like we have here, on Earth. It was a different, supportive, peaceful, all-encompassing darkness that felt primordial. I love that word.
It's so funny you say that, because within Taoism, the teachings come from perfection, which is the void, the starting point of the void that creates the spark within the womb of the primordial mother, the essence of all things. And that primordial mother is creation. This is a cloth of perfection. And it's so funny. I was going to say, are you sure you're not a Taoist, baby? I don't know. Probably in a past life.
I'm just going to say, I know I have been in a past life. Yes.
And also, as irritating as she is, Dolores says hello.
Dolores.
Yeah. If you're familiar with any somnambulistic state.
You're talking about Dolores Cannon.
Yeah.
Yes. I love Dolores. Yeah.
Yeah. So she says hello, which is really interesting. She's been bothering me for quite a few months. Irritating.
Really?
Just a talking head going on about, and it's probably been about a year, because I've had probably a dozen of her practitioners, and they all validate and go crazy, because a lot of people go, she said she would never come back. I'm like, I'm telling you, she's back, and she's irritating beyond irritating, constantly going on about how people bastardize her system of accessing super consciousness, whatever it is, and it gets watered down. That's why people are not maintaining that somnambulistic state. And I'm like, interesting. That's great. I'm not here to go propagating and pouting your sort of like discontent with how people are using your messaging and your connection. Go to your daughter and have that worked out. That's not for me, and then she goes back and forth with this other guy, Art Bell. I don't know if you ever heard of this guy.
No.
He used to have a supernatural paranormal radio station out here in Nevada, and he would talk about all things ETs and all this kind of stuff. And then he goes on and on and on about a bunch of stuff. But the two of them had a relationship at one point. She was running through his radio station when it was radio. So yeah, she says hello. Interesting.
Oh, well, hello, Dolores. Thank you. Her books opened me up to.
It's like, you can't make this stuff up. It blows my mind.
You can't. Her books opened me up. But the first book I read by her was the first book of the Convoluted Universe, The Custodians, and it blew my freaking mind. And I'm like, oh my God.
The biggest thing is you actually, it's such a diluted humanistic word, you honor a sense of understanding by attuning to what it is that she's sharing with this level of consciousness, and how you've entered that into your own experience, and she's very grateful for that.
Oh, well, thank you, Dolores. I recommend her books all the time. Convoluted Universe series is just out of this. I mean, it's best books out there.
Isn't it nuts though? Like, how would I know what you're into or what you? And then she's in here piping, in my. This is a thing that blows my mind. I love this stuff. It's like, being able to witness it and see it. They're clear senses. I've been teaching this stuff for decades, but I'm still like the first time I ever saw it. I'm like this little kid. I'm like, oh, this is real. This is 100% real. And then, you have validation through your own experience going, yeah, that's right. Yep. That's valid.
Well, I'm a medium, so I understand it.
I understand it. I just love this stuff. I love it.
Me too. And then, the teachers stay around us just because they're not embodied doesn't mean they're not helping us. So it doesn't surprise me that she can't leave us.
Well, she irritates me, and I always leave the lights on. Like I get hundreds of entities entertain me all the time, and I entertain them. Quite frankly, it depends on the mood I'm in. But I've spent like 30 years teaching people these ancient rituals from Taoism, and one of them from a Taoist priest perspective is exorcism. So I'm fully familiar with this type of like state of awareness. Now, it doesn't have to be ominous. It depends on your state of what your reality is, right? Yeah. So exercising something is just that. Let's exercise it, expand it, dissolve it, release it. And how that perceives itself for your making will be determinative by your experience, by your construct. And so I always tell people the truth is your truth, and that's the only truth you need to be concerned with. Anyone that gives you an absolute truth is concerning, and you should run in the other direction. But your absolute truth is your truth. And so, when we have these experiences like the conversation we're having now, it's about sharing and being able to completely dissolve any inhibitions, anything, just be the present moment. And then all of a sudden, we have this collective communion that we have, remembering who we are as the now moment. And through that, we validate these experiences, visceral kinesthetic, like the charge that you're getting up your spine right now. That's real. That's going on. That's the communion that we have, the oscillating effect, this symbiotic thing that we call within Taoism yin and yang. It's the now moment. This is the decipherer, like the bat signal, but this is the yin and yang. You sit it, you drop it down on your reality, you use that as a template to create whatever it is that you choose to. Mm-hmm. So I just like get blown away, just frankly, every day with something. And OGs like yourself that are really bringing that frequency, it's not a figment of your imagination, is evident in the experience. This is experiential. This is the now moment. This is energetically proven by your barometer, your tuning fork, your physical flesh is transmuting that experience into the material. And we're going, yes, this is really happening. It's like, screw the words, screw the stories. Who cares? I can feel it. And that's the knowing. All the other stuff is nonsensical. It's like, if you come from physiology, biology, neurology, psychology, being a psychic, a medium, a channel, and whatever, that's limited. When you embody the present moment, these are no longer facets of your reality. You're all things and nothing at the same time, as a Taoist would perceive, the bellows, the contracting and expanding. Just like, this is what we call psychokinesis right now. When I move my hands and you feel it through your physical body, this is not a figment of your imagination. This is the energetic potential that some mentalist, some illusionist, some magician would pretend to propagate the idea that this is possible, but it's very possible. Yeah. And so, it's kind of like how you message it. It's like an ideogram. Right. Yeah. So, that's really the messaging that we're getting right now. This is this ideomotor response that you are the tuning fork, the divinity is present within you, and you can speak it, you can say it, you can experience it, and it will be validated. It's like, there is no question about that. And that's what I love about this conversation with you, is because this, holy crap, man, my chest is going to explode. I've been like getting high as a kite. You had me at hello. Just keep talking. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I'm good.
I lost my track. Oh, I was going to say what you were describing just a minute ago about the yin and yang, and the balance is what I felt in the void. That's exactly what I felt. I expanded. I could expand and contract. Expand, and that's what I forgot to mention. When I was the mother, the planet, the mother planet, I could expand my consciousness to be the planet and bring my consciousness down to the single micro organism, and that's what I felt in the void. I was both.
We're
and
feeling
anything,
it right now. Easy with your hands now, all right, Sparky? Just
okay.
on that, because I'm like you're. It's like a tangible experience. I'm like getting super high, and you're moving me around in all directions. That
Okay,
is
all right. Let's sit still.
Mother, you know,
I just wanted to share that in that space, I was not me, the little girl anymore. I could expand and bring my awareness back, and I realized when I brought my awareness back to me as Sharon, that anything that was out of balance within me, the void would bring something to balance it out. There could not be anything out of balance within the void. It was like, it was not but it was not possible. So that's what that energy was doing.
Oh my goodness, we're having an epiphany right now, audience, and everyone is co-creators right now. But I mean, this is, as you through your own admission, the bellows effect, as a Taoist would see it, is that contracting, expanding. You're all things and nothing at the same time. And people go, oh my goodness, my brain's hurting. And then you have the Death Star moment. You are Luke Skywalker. You go in for that kill shot. And that is the Wu Ji. Right. So for the contracting and expanding, which is all and nothing, light and void, darkness and light all at once, the center point is the Wu Ji, the primordial mother. So between the breath in and the breath out is that center point. That's where all the secret sources, that charge you're getting right up your spine right now, and you're oscillating. I'm getting high on it too, because that is that concentrated light, which is the primordial mother. And it's like what we call the diamond. It's compressing into this tangible substance that is the now moment, and it's yours. And once you enter that, we call it the Wu Ji, which is the primordial mother, which is perfection. And then you access what Bruce Lee coined back in the 70s as flow, baby, the Wu Wei. The Wu Wei is effortless action, effortless effort. You are the maestro of that primordial mother, the cloth of perfection. And now whatever you think becomes reality. It's not a thinking in the mind of psyche. We're talking about you are all things and nothing at the same time. There's no place, person, or thing. There is a place, person, or thing. You are everything. This present moment makes you the maestro. So if you think it, it becomes realized in this material.
I love that.
Yeah, baby. Oh, yeah. And I mean, this is what we're experiencing right now. You know, it's like, I just, this is the stuff that gets me high as a kite. I'm like, I actually do this all day long. Holy moly. This is my life. This is like, holy, someone would think that I manifested this. Oh, yeah. Maybe.
Wait,
yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
I know. Isn't that the secret that we create? Right. We create our life. Every single moment, every single second. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, that's the alchemy. The alchemy from me for Taoism is the stuff that I get students from across the globe. They come and train with me because they want the secret source. It's like, remember, you are subject to this electromagnetism. This is what we call a dualistic perception. This is the material that you are now misaligned. To be aligned, to realize you are the primordial mother, means that you are not either or, you are all things. So that means that you become unified as one. There isn't a up or down or in or out, left or right. You're all things.
All things.
And then you become the maestro of this 50 trillion cells that you perceive as the flesh and blood looking back at you in the mirror as the maestro. You maestro those 50 trillion cells. You access the 0.07 millivolts of electricity. And then you get the Harry Potterville moment where you start doing that magic, manifestation, magic, healing. Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. And that's the
Well,
stuff.
yeah,
That's the
that
stuff. It's
is.
like,
That's the secret. Yeah, that's, I mean, not to refer to that DVD or that show, but it is the secret when
well,
we
you're giving
when we
out the
remember it. Thank you.
you're giving out the real secret, because the
Yeah,
secret actually fell short. That's why people died.
it did. I agree.
Because what the one thing that was the linchpin that they pulled out that broke the whole back, give me your values. No, 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 no. That's identifying as a personality. That's the
Yeah.
biggest misconception. It's like I always tell people, they get dumbfounded when I go, I am is nonsense. And they're like, what? Because you are now you are observing and being present as something else other than the now moment. Meaning you have character, you have ego. When you say I am the universe, what are you talking about? It's like when Lutzu, my teacher that I channel, he comes in and
Mhm.
is like, one of the questions that was asked earlier this year was like, oh my goodness, Lutzu, the world is going to end. It's going to be misery. It's going to be death and destruction. And his answer, he's kind of cheeky in the sense of how he shares his information, but it's like, imagine you're like a grain of sand, asking the beach, what are we doing today? Fall back into the beach and be realized. And I was like, holy shit, you make me look like a genius. I love this stuff. Because that is that essence of that
Yes.
information that Sharon and I are talking about, is getting that source information. And to do that, you will feel the visceral, somatic, kinesthetic response. And you don't need to know what it is that we're saying. You will feel it. You will be contracting or you will be expanding. One or the
Right.
other. Expanding.
Well, yeah, just like the universe. Can I share an experience with I am?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. In my meditation, when I was working with Yeshua, um, Christ, in my meditations, I'd get very, very deep. I was getting very, very deep. And at one point during my meditation, I heard this deep, resonant voice say, I am. I mean, it was just deep within my soul. I realized, oh my gosh. Well, I didn't realize anything at the time. I just heard it. And it resonated through me. Afterwards, I was like, oh, I just reached the I am, my I am. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. And I'm like, this is what people were talking about. I didn't understand it that much, but now I get it. This was 20 years ago. So it was, early on in my teachings with him. And then 2 or 3 days later, during a meditation, I see a dancing blue flame, just as clear as day. It was so beautiful. And I realized that I'm actually gazing at the flame of my soul. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm getting goosebumps again. That was pretty profound.
Yeah, I mean that's that oscillating effect, right? So within yin and yang, the mirror is you look at the primordial mother and you present it in this present moment. So the reflection of her back on you transmutes this limited flesh and blood into perfection, back to the source, back to the return of
Mm-hmm.
who you are. And that's why we use the Tao Te Ching. I just transcribed the 2024 version of the Tao Te Ching with Lutzu, my teacher, and we call this the magical register. There's 81 versions of verses that are all incantations. They have 81 levels of consciousness with a frequency, a color, and a shape that immerses you into returning to the mother. Every time you read it, it's like, holy crap! I'm now. I feel it. I know it. Just like we're having right now. It is the now moment, and that is what the whole purpose of that mirroring effect is, to remember. One of my teachers, Jade Emperor, he has this incantation he uses, which is really quite simple. A power abundant in its giving you will receive, unifying the body with the spirit with the energy, bringing heaven to earth, transcending all is one, one is all, revealing perfection manifest. That is your gift. That is your offering. That is your gift. That is your offering. That is your gift. That is your offering. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
And you
Nice.
feel that. You
Mhm.
feel that. It's visceral. You
Yeah.
feel it because that's the simplicity of it. So once you give, you receive. People are like, "Oh, well, Jeff, I just want the crazy stuff where I could do anything and levitate and heal people and all the magic stuff, separating electric from magnetic." I mean, once you get there, it's like, I used to love that. Back in the mid to late '90s, I put a wet rag down on the ground and I'd love to charge people with an electric shock that I get from my dantian. And so instead of like blowing their circuits, you want to do it. It's like how you spontaneously sometimes have electric shocks where you
Yeah.
you charge someone.
You touch each
Well,
other. Yeah.
I teach people how to do that at will, and it's a supercharge of your neurological network. It wakens you up, and
Hmm.
this is always fun. And what someone would perceive as, we just call them the treasures, absorbing the riches and the sacred treasures of the Jade Emperor's palace. Someone would consider them sitters, superpowers, paranormal, supernatural sort of things, where you can access this energetic potential and start to separate electric from magnetic and doing all this kind of crazy stuff. Once you hit that, you return. It makes you more expansive. And most cases, for me, I'm still all warm and fuzzy inside about witnessing physical, mental, emotional, spiritual healing. But do you want to go further into setting things on fire with transmitting heat? Sure. These are the things that I like to teach people. But there's only 3 people in my lifetime I've ever seen be able to levitate. 2 of them were, gurus deep in the jungles of Indonesia, and then one is one of my students. And then people are like, well, why don't you levitate, Jifu? Because I don't care. Doesn't bother me. I'm not interested in that. I want to see a physical healing. I want to see a mental, emotional healing. I want to see a spiritual healing, and I want to
Yeah.
see it now. Give me the Pepsi
Spontaneously.
challenge with anyone. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
That's it. You show me,
I can levitate in the out of body state.
and it's like you're one breath away from
That's
transmuting that into this
into
material.
the physical. Yeah.
If you choose to, it's like
Right.
there's always choices, right? I think I
Hmm.
love it. I love the way you said you mentioned the hypnosis, and it's always a great entry level to
Yeah.
help people understand that you can access now through this idea that there's a conscious and unconscious process, and you become very familiar where you remove the veil. And people give these statistical measures of what is conscious, what is unconscious, what are the measurements. Let's just echo the words of my favorite Keebler gnome. He's so cute. Bill Bruce Lipton. He's so cute. It's like, 5% consciousness, 95% unconscious. I mean, we can ramble this stuff. It's propagated with Dispenza, Brand, Greg Braden. They kind of go on these tangents, and that's cool. But what do you know is free will? Free will is an idea until otherwise noted. You know what you know. You don't know what you don't know. And
Yeah.
to obtain that level of consciousness from a neurological perspective, for me, I've been measuring my brainwaves for years. And, it's always fun because when you hit the center point, right? So that center point I think it's, what's his name? David Hawkins, they have a consciousness scale, right?
David Hawkins. Yeah. Totally.
So 1,000 or 963 is the secret source of consciousness. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago when he created that scale, that Hertz frequency, right? But it's not. I mean, I can, from my own admission, I could stay in 100 to 400 Hertz frequency and be gamma, be 100% conscious, meaning I could access anything at once, meaning erase, instantly obtain, stay in this conscious state and be somnambulistic at the same time. So I'm like epsilon and gamma at the same time, had a baby, and we have superpowers. Hey, this is this moment. This is the present moment. I've seen physical healings at 100 hertz. So, once you get up past that gamma wave of what they consider 2% of the population, maybe 10 years
Right.
ago was possible,
Right.
dude,
Yeah.
hang around with Sharon, hang around with myself, and you're going to find some freaky frequencies that are going to just present themselves and go, holy crap,
Yeah.
this is
Totally.
real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeshua actually trained me to gauge my frequency back in the day. So I can do it. I mean, I do it now. I don't need to like I used to because I was in a much different space then. He was teaching me or helping me remember. We're just remembering these things, right? To remember to gauge my frequency and pay attention to my thoughts and my emotions and what frequency do I, am I at right now? And so I was gauging that on a regular basis. He said, okay, what about your dog? And other people, what about your dog? She was always around 5, of course, but things like that. Cause dogs aren't worried about anything. Or animals. So that's super important. And that's where he helped me to heal so much, is to pay attention to what the thoughts in my head and what I was putting out there, what I was saying to myself as well. Because back in that day, and we all go through tough times where we beat ourselves up and things like that, because I felt obviously like a failure, because he said, as we're having this conversation, I could hear him just like I hear you and see him in my mind's eye. What, he'd say to me, as we're having a conversation, he'd say to me, okay, are you sure? He'd ask me a question because he was teaching. Are you sure? And I say, what do you mean, am I sure? Sure about what? He said, listen. And so I'd have to listen to my background tape, which was my mantra. And it was, I'm sorry. I kept saying, I'm sorry, over and over. And he helped me replace that with a better mantra, which was infinity. And I felt the expansion, and it helped me get rid of the mantra. And you notice when people are constantly apologizing for things, stuff like that, then that tells me, at least in my case, that I was apologizing for whatever ideas I had or was told that I was a failure, or that I didn't cut the grade or anything like that. And so he helped me replace that to where I now pay very, very close attention to what I'm telling myself and what my thoughts are and what I'm putting out there, because that's frequency too. He also taught me, he showed me, and I write about it in my book, by the way. I have a book. I just wrote a book about, Awakened Soul. Awakened Soul, yeah. Beautiful. And it's about my teachings, him, and it's not religious at all. He's my guide, my teacher, and how he helped me heal through soul retrieval, bringing fragmented parts of my soul, fragmented parts of me, going back, like I explained earlier, to other lifetimes. One was a civil war, which I was totally fragmented on that. I had to use out-of-body experiences to claim that part of me. Her name was Prudence, and she had lost her children and a brother during the Civil War. Anyway, so that was very profound. That was one of my first ones that I had to work with on. And I do that kind of work now, but he helped me with all that and helped me see this reality for what it is in some way, rather than what we've been taught. So he helped deprogram me. He helped me understand that this is the illusion. And of course, we know that the only thing that's real is in that present moment, and is that we are love and we are light. We are, like you say, part of the prior mortal mother. And so he helped me understand that and see that and realize who I really am, and what that we, like you were saying earlier, San, that we can make this life as happy or as not so happy as we want. We are the creator, but that knowledge has been taken from us. And so he helped me remember that. And now you're helping people remember that. And there's so many people now that are helping others remember that, and that are remembering that. We're waking up. So he helped me remember my true self and what I needed to heal in order to be the person I'm meant to be on this planet now, instead of chasing some kind of dream that didn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And I will say, whenever I sat with him in my classroom in meditation, that and then would go off to my world of work and stuff like that, and would sit back with him again. This was the only thing that was real. That was the only thing that was real. I was sitting with and I'm feeling it now. When I'm sitting with that space, that part of me, the Christ part of me, right, which is what he is, all of us, that our teachers, our guides are part of us. That part of me, that was the only thing that was real. This was the illusion out here, because I was sitting in that space of pure love, pure support, and there wasn't anything that I could have done or said that would cause him to be upset with me, anything that I would fear. There wasn't anything. It was just pure support and love. Yeah, I still sit with him, of course, but I would not be here without that connection. Without that, I would not be here, for sure.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I mean,
hallelujah.
Hallelujah. I mean, over the decades, sharing with people the remembrance of their frequency and returning to the primordial mother. I mean, many times I've come over the big G, the JC, hanging out with those big dogs. And, it's funny how when you speak on that or use more of a humanistic word, honor the frequency of Yeshua, which would be in my version of seeing that transmission of that specific spirit is more like the mystical version of the JC that we know as the big dog. And so it's funny how he transmutes as you speak about him within your field from more a monastic sort of like state of just honoring the image of him in many representations as Jesus Christ. And then when you talk about Christ itself, then he comes in that form of that sacrifice where you're seeing that very presence of his final surrender from the physical flesh to help people realize who they are and remember that is transitory, that is limited. Mortality is real. You are not mortal. You are immortal. You are eternal.
Right. Yeah.
That truth of that illusion that you speak of presents itself with that relationship. And, I've got nothing but much love for JC and the big G in that, because people, they have these experiences and then they start to throw it all in the same pot. And I'm like, I really want you to understand there are an infinite amount of energies and frequencies, and people need to identify that the spirit, infinite amount of spirits, that they all have their own signature. So Tao is not God. God is not universe. Jesus is not Buddha. These are all unique and cut from the same cloth of perfection. They're another version of a monologue from a dialogue. And so when I create communion with my teachers and I have them, just as you mentioned, like Lutz is in this room right now, and I see him and hear him as clear as I see you, I'm having a magical mystery right as we speak. I'm, in the universe, experiencing the constellations and everything else while talking here. That's what we call, as Sharon said, a multi-dimensional reality. That's part of like what I train people in, which is Nidun, internal alchemy, which is revealing the Nigong, which is the internal power. That's the Taoist alchemy path. And when you do that, you're able to operate in all dimensions at once, as you would put it from a physicist's perspective, which is everything is now. And that's that contracting, expanding. We access the Wu Ji, the primordial mother, and now you can be everywhere at once and nowhere at once, and all and everything and nothing at the same time. But that experience, that visceral experience, is very real. Just as Sharon can see Yeshua as a tangible, very visual experience that she's having right now. This is not a psychotic episode. This is tangible. This is real. This is real. As we're experiencing it, as you speak on it, we get to enjoy that embodiment, that now moment. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah,
This is
it
really
is. Right. I love that. Thank you. Yeah, when I was, and this is, if I could just mention my book, this was 10 years in the making. It was a big deal for me. And I journal. He taught me 4 things to do in order to heal is, of course, reflection, meditation, that type of thing, just disengaging from the outside world and go within. And then journaling, getting it out, share my emotions, my thoughts, everything like that on paper. Just get it out of my field, put it out, on paper, because I love to journal now. I didn't do it before that. Actually, when I was a kid, I used to write poetry, but I have tons of journals. And so that, and of course, when you're in reflection, you're listening to source, to your higher guidance and yourself, your higher self, and then also speaking to higher source, and then pay attention to your nighttime travels. Those are the 4 things he told me are the most important thing for me to heal. And I've been doing that ever since. And it's completely changed my life and my perspective and the way I see the world. And I see things energetically now. And so it's, yeah. And I wouldn't have been able to write this without my journals. And I wanted to mention, as I was writing, I was healing even more. More was coming. I was in the moment, like you were saying, San, that I was in that moment again with my with the experiences that I shared in there. I was there again, and I started remembering more and more because we're diving in deeper. Yeah. So when you're in that moment of that experience, it doesn't. And I realized that where our thoughts are, you helped me remember this. Where our thoughts are is where we're at, and it show me. And I worked with other guys too that came to me that had their specialties, but show me that when my thoughts go somewhere, that's where I actually am. That's where people see me in the higher planes, I guess you could say, in the spirit planes or whatever. And that's where I am. That's the multidimensional fractal part of us that is able to travel. It's just, we need to focus more, or I do need to focus more on being more aware of our multidimensional realities.
yeah,
rather than being scattered, I guess I should say.
right. I mean, this is kind of like sort of basic stuff that I've got a lot of friends that are remote viewers. I teach people remote viewing. It's kind of like one of the things. I mean, I want people not to do. A lot of people have this fear-based idea of hypnosis, which is such a misconception, because you really lose an actual a point of insight into your own realization when you can access that.
Right.
I'm out here in Nevada and Las Vegas, so I'll take the kids down to the Strip and we'll do street magic. We love the street magic. I love to just get in and blow people's minds with a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of something else. But when I taught my kids, I have 6 kids, 5 of them have a very deep understanding of hypnosis, because that's the ground level stuff. And then some of the older ones, I teach them remote viewing and other, telekinesis and things of that nature that are more paranormal. And but you want to be able to like show people a wow moment. It's like that present moment, And so if you're instantly transmitting that frequency, you're not doing the old good old fashioned mesmer, look into my eyes, watch it. This is all cool and well.
Yeah.
If you're transmitting a frequency, I'll walk up to someone on the Strip and I'll be like, oh, well, because they're all out partying. That's what they want to do. And it's like, would you like to experience bliss? And they're like, yeah. And their friends get the camera out and, this is this moment. It's like exciting. And then it's like in the same second, I go sleep. And they go, what the fuck? What? The friend's standing up, passed out. And I'm like, okay, so what would you like? And they're just looking at me like, how is that possible? Next minute, they become conscious and, you take them into as they open their eyes, I'm Justin Bieber, or maybe they don't even know their own name. It's just a reverse hallucination, as a psychologist would put it, which is quite frankly a great way to diminish someone's ability to access present moment. But psychology is a whole nother story I don't want to go to. But realizing that you can be that present moment, and that's their power. All I'm doing is giving them frequency, and they're going, holy crap, I can access that. And instantly, it'll always be like, well, what would you like to leave this with? And, their friends might be like, oh, yeah, they're not as confident, or they're sad, or they're depressed. And I'm like, well, let's just make sure that's gone. And they're like, what are you talking about? Poof. And they literally don't feel like the same person, because that's how quickly it happens.
Yeah.
And that's transmitting an energy. But people need to understand how to just get in there. As a hypnotist would call it, you're stepping over what they call a critical faculty, the summation of your entry into this world from the developmental brainwave state of your childhood, and then getting over that, getting into something that is far more the secret source stuff that Sharon and I share you, which is transmitting high frequency, and that is on a whole nother ballgame. Please understand, the audience, this is not even in the same domain. Do not even attempt to categorize hypnosis and transmitting direct source information. Whole nother ballgame. Hypnosis is like getting to know that you're aware, and now let's play with that substance. Let's identify your ability to obtain a frequency, and now let's start to validate it. Gnosis, self-realized now moment, that pulpability, that source that you're getting, and that charge and that visceral experience is that now moment, that validation. So instead of us going, a lot of people, oh, well, you're just talking a bunch of nonsense. Now. What does that mean? Oh, shit. I just showed you. Now what? Holy crap. If you can look at me and remember that before 5 minutes ago, you thought I looked like Justin Bieber, you got a photo of me on your phone as if you were meeting Justin Bieber, that shows you how quickly you can change.
Yeah.
And it's what your perception is and how quickly you can access it. People need to understand that. It's like, do not dismiss it. I think it's very powerful. And then Dolores is like, there's some animalistic stuff. That's the stuff that I used to teach people. Yeah, I know. I get it. That's your super consciousness thing you're into. I get it. I mean, and I much prefer that state, because that is like epsilon on steroids. And, a lot of people are like, oh, you don't need to go that deep. Okay. It depends on what someone needs to calibrate themselves to return. And perhaps maybe you don't. But then again, if you don't, you're going to leave something unturned, a stone unturned. Whereas if you go that deep, you're always going to return, and you're going to have the ability to. Just saying. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree. Yeah, the deeper you go, the more you can access, and the more you can dive into your soul, because that's what we're really doing, is diving into our soul and accessing what our conscious mind doesn't or won't or isn't able to access, because we're so distracted in our world that we don't take the time or the energy to do this. And we used to know how to do this. We used to do it all the time. We used to spend time in our own self-hypnosis or reflection, meditation, whatever you want to call it, because we didn't have so many distractions. So once we start remembering that and diving in, then that's where all the answers are. We all have the answers within us. It's just a matter of going in, trusting it, and staying committed to realizing that first of all, we have a lot of help. We have a lot more help than we think we do on the other side. And when I look at people, I'm sure you do too. I mean, I see a whole team. I see their team all around them, holographically too, just their whole team. And people say, unfortunately, well, I'm so alone. I feel so alone. You got a whole team around you, huge beings around you. So when we take that time is when it's so important. It's really important to do it. I can't stress enough how important, as you know, it is to dive into our soul and find out who we are, remember who we are. And then the whole universe, multiverse is at our disposal.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. And I mean, when you experience it's just like the substance right now, it's like and that's the delusion. It's like I like people that when you get to a high level of ascension, you feel nothing. I'm like, sorry. No, there's more sensitivity and sensory perception than ever before. And that
Yes,
you
totally.
have access to that energetic potential in every way, shape, or form.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where not that I didn't have the bullshit meter before, but when someone starts talking like that, I'm like, okay, that's okay. That's your truth right now. That's your truth as you know it. And people are like, how dare you? What does that mean? It's just what you know right now. That's your experience. And that's validated by you. But I can promise you, if you come on the magical mystery ride with me, I'm going to show you a frequency that's just a little bit higher. And then you go, holy shit, there's more. Absolutely. That's the biggest mistake, is like when people dismiss the student as the teacher is the student. That's the very demise of your conscious creation, is realizing that, as Jade Emperor, one of my teachers, would say, when you accept you know nothing, you know everything. And that's kind of like that part.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I always say, well, this is what I know at the time right now. It might change 5 minutes from now or an hour or tomorrow, but this is where I'm at right now, right in this moment. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to share an experience with you. You're talking about as when you go higher, the senses are even more heightened. And that's what I shared earlier. And it's so true. Oh my gosh. And your audience is adult, right? So I was reality shifting, and I was in another life experience, because we have other lives, multidimensional lives that we're living with mates, with families, that kind of thing. And so I was in another life, and but I was aware of me here, so I was conscious. And my mate and I are making love, and at the point of orgasm, I hear a voice say, I'm sure it was either me or him, bring it up. I brought it up my spine, and oh my gosh, I exploded. I could see it exploded with light. Prism of colorful rainbow light from each of chakras. I'm assuming all the chakras, they were exploding with light, and it just went on and up and out. My whole not physical, well, we were very physical, but my physical body in that reality became pure, colorful light and bliss. Waves of orgasmic bliss. I can't say how long it lasted, but yeah, that is what we can look forward to and attain
now.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a new definition of orgasm, but that's the whole point. But you can actually, just like people say, it's like the honeymoon is over. Well, that's what you say. And that's the very demise of your own reality. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you can create the instant you set your eyes on your loved one and you fell madly in love, in lust of. Yes. You can recreate that on a second-by-second basis right now. Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? It's kind of a little lackluster right now. I'm like, well, now we need to reset and attune you back to the truth, which is that never left you. That's just something where you're slowly diminishing the return by being stuck in the humanness, being stuck in your perception of the human condition, creating this reality, which will always be in lack of, and it will always be presented as an introspective, analytical psychosis, where that's just part of this journey within this material. And once you unlock the Wu-Ji, your journey in this material becomes serendipitous, synchronistic, supernatural, intuitive, orgasmic, climactic, unreal to the real. Your unreal becomes realized. Yeah. That is what we're talking about. And I just think that's beautiful because, you know, that's kind of like how we talk about the primordial mother is from the void creates the light. That speck of light is a transmutation. So that center point within Taoism is a black hole energy from a unified field perspective, from a physicist perspective. If you've heard a guy named Nassim Haramein,
I loved him.
Yeah, so I love him too. I'm obsessed. But like, I just was like, Nassim, you've finally discovered the Taoist path that's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. And he's like, the unified field theory. You see, I've got students that have been cultivating through me sharing these practices for years and decades, and they can never get old with the experience. They're like, just when I thought the energy couldn't get any more strong, it's even 10 times more strong than it was. This is never ending. I'm like, you're welcome. And so that one of them had this gig at UCSF. He's got a PhD, big brain on Brad, super like highly intelligent guy, but he's also very intuitive and very mystical driven. And so he was researching in a research paper on the what is in the nucleus of a human cell. And he came back one day. He's like, Shifu, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, what? Please tell me. I was just researching and I was discovering what was inside the nucleus of a cell. This is a research paper that I was given funding for, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And what else? Well, you wouldn't imagine what I found inside that. I'm like, what? A black hole energy. And I'm like, no shit. Now, that in of itself is an energy that we've been studying as the primordial center of Taoist practices for hundreds of thousands of years.